So you write that the mother's journey involves a descent. So tell us about the descent. We'll be talking about it a lot, but get us started with the descent.
That's the through line of the book, is this kind of metaphor of a descent down the well, where we encounter strange things and then there's a return. And that kind of provides the organizational structure for the book. But there are so many fairy tales and myths that follow this pattern of descent and return. And let's see, probably one of the simplest ones, just for the sake of economy again, would be the Grimm's tale Mother Holle, which I don't mention in the book, or maybe just in passing, but it's a really simple but profound tale where there are two daughters, and there's the good daughter and the kind of obnoxious daughter, and the good daughter.
So many like that.
I know. Yeah. She either gets pushed or she falls down the well. And when she's down there, she has to serve Mother Holle. And one of the things she has to do is she has to shake out other comforter. And she spends some time down there, and finally Mother Holle says, okay, you've done a good job here. You can go back home. And when she returns, she is showered in gold. And so she returns to her family situation with the gold, with this boon. And her stepmother, her nasty stepmother, wants, her other daughter to go down too. And the other daughter makes a mess of everything. But we find out that when she was busy shaking the feather duster down in Mother Holle's realm, it was snowing above ground. And so this tunes us into the fact that Mother Holle is actually a great nature goddess, because she makes the snow come. It's an image of a primordial, very powerful nature goddess that turns up in these fairy tales. We see this in the myth of Inanna and Ereshkigal, this descent and return. That's a very profound myth of female initiation. Mm-hmm. It shows up in my personal favorite fairy tale of all time, which is Vasilisa the Beautiful, where she doesn't make a physical descent, but she descends into the kind of the dark realm by going into the forest and apprenticing herself to Baba Yaga, this terrible cannibalistic witch. So there's a sense in all of these tales. And of course, the other well-known one would be Demeter and Persephone. Persephone goes down to the underworld and then she returns. And that journey was the basis of the Eleusinian mysteries in the ancient world, these profound rites of renewal that would happen in Eleusis. This mythologem of descent, especially for the woman, the heroine, just seems to run through so many important stories of female psychological development. And I think my point in the book is that being a mother involves a kind of descent, both in little ways and in big.
Yes, right. You do take us through that. And I really love the fact that there are all these fairy tales. When I was a kid in school, the readers that we were given had the sort of boring, it was probably beyond Dick and Jane, but other kinds of stories up front that you kind of had to get through. But in the back, it was like they saved the fairy tales for dessert, I guess. Mm-hmm. So I remember skipping ahead, because I wanted to read those fairy tales. And I think we all have a sense that, these tales are meaningful or they wouldn't have been around for so long. And you kind of give us some guidance for how to approach them. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if I need to prime you more.
Well, fairy tales are very ancient. I mean, scholarship is now placing many of them at thousands of years old, as far as I understand it. And of course, fairy tales are very important to Jungians because they're considered to be archetypal material. So that is kind of a product of the unconscious, that they sort of show us our psychic bones.
Yeah. And that idea is kind of reinforced, I think, by the fact that there are these there's similarities that run through different stories from different times and
Mm-hmm.
places.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to believe, wait a second, there's something going on here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and this takes us into Jung's idea of the collective unconscious,
Uh-huh.
that these materials turn up independently, Jung would say. In different cultures, you get very similar mythologems. And if you study comparative fairy tales, there's a version, for example, of something like Cinderella in just about every culture.